Hi everyone and welcome to Book Boop. My name is Rachel and today I'm going to be doing my August wrap up. So I'm going to talk about all the books I read in the month of August. I got through 11 books in August, which sounds insane, but 4 out of those books were manga and also some graphic novels, so some nice quick reads. I cannot believe we're doing the August wrap up already because wow, August went by real fast. It's already September. That's nuts. I'm going to be referencing my notes as usual for all of these reviews just to make sure I keep on track. So I'll be probably looking away at my notes a little bit. So I apologize if I'm not looking directly at the camera the whole time. I'm going to try to make this as snappy as I can because I know you don't want to be here for a long wrap up and I don't want to be here for a long wrap up. So let's go ahead and jump in, shall we? So the very first book that I read in August is a very polarizing book because some people were really excited about it and some people were like, why is this happening? And that is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. This is the new Hunger Games book prequel. It is the origin story of President Snow, just the very well-loved and well-hated villain in the Hunger Games. And a lot of people, when this came out, they were like, why is this happening? Because they were hoping it was going to be a different kind of prequel. And it ended up being about President Snow. It's been very polarizing because some people have hated it and some people have really enjoyed it. And I am excited to say that I fell into the category of really enjoying it. So in this story, as I said, we're following President Snow when I think he's 17 or 18 years old. And this is during the 10th Hunger Games. He is currently in the academy and is wanting to graduate well. And for the first time ever in the Hunger Games, they're actually pairing kids that are tributes with, what are they called again? Someone to like train them or to be with them and everything. And the first time they do this, they actually choose some of these kids from the academy, and Snow is one of those people, and he ends up being paired up with one of the tributes, and then the Hunger Games happen, lots of crazy stuff happens. I don't want to go into too much because I don't want to spoil anything, but it was really interesting to jump into the story and to see the Hunger Games from this perspective. Because the thing is, when we have the Hunger Games originally, it's a very big televised event. It's an event that's very popularized, glamorized, even though it's an absolutely horrible event of kids having to force each other to kill each other to be able to survive. It's awful. So it's still difficult to read, definitely. But in this time, during the 10th Hunger Games, it's very different. The arena is in the same place every single time. It's not like some huge, crazy arena that they like change things about or put in different types of obstacles. It's just the same arena every year. It's also not something that many people are that excited about. The Capitol doesn't really like to watch it. It's not like a really popular thing. It's just something that's going on. And it's always brutal, but it's really, really brutal in this. The tributes aren't treated very well, and it's just a very different type of games. And we're seeing from the 10th Hunger Games how they're wanting to try to popularize it more and trying to make it more of a spectacle. So it's really interesting to look at it from that perspective. My dog just sneezed, so bless you, Moon Moon. I really enjoyed this because I was interested to see not only the way the Hunger Games looked from the 10th Hunger Games and being an earlier Hunger Games, but also to see from the Capitol's perspective, because in the Hunger Games, the original series, we're looking from the district's perspective, or kind of like the outsider's perspective. In this one, we are within the Capitol and we are seeing from the Capitol's eyes and people that are of the Capitol of what the Hunger Games looks like. And we get more of an idea of who Snow is and what he comes from. And the main thing I feel like we learn from Snow is that we learn that he finds his family and his family name is the most important thing to him. And he will do anything for his family name and anything basically for him to get a leg up in the world. I apologize if you can hear my dog. He's now laying right next to the camera and is snuffling and making all sorts of weird noises, so I'm sorry about that. So this one was a lot of fun. Hi, sweet boy. I know you want to be in the show too. I gave this 4 stars out of 5. I really enjoyed this a lot. I don't really see the purpose of it in that I feel like it could have been fine without it, but it was a really interesting perspective. It was interesting to kind of learn more about Snow. I don't know if there's going to be another one necessarily. I guess there kind of could be, but I don't know if there's going to be more after this. But I actually did really enjoy it, and I had fun just kind of seeing this perspective of the Hunger Games and jumping back into this world again. So personally, I recommend it. I thought it was a good read and a good time. Well, I mean, it's still the Hunger Games, so it's really depressing and sad and terrifying. So you can say that's a good time, I guess. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about the next thing. So let's jump into some manga, shall we? So I had originally planned to read The Promised Neverland, which I'm not going to attempt to say the name of the author. I will list all the books that I'm mentioning today down below in the description section. But here we go, I've got the cover for you. I originally planned to read volume 1, and I actually ended up reading through volume 3, which are the volumes that I had available at my local library. The Promised Neverland is all about these kids who live at an orphanage, and everything seems wonderful and happy. They're well cared for until they start learning a little bit more about the orphanage, and it ends up being a little bit more terrifying than they realize. I'm not going to say any more than that because I don't want to spoil anything. Unfortunately, I've heard about this a lot on BookTube, lots of great things, but I ended up getting spoiled by it, kind of like the big twist with this. So I'm not going to spoil that. But this was my first attempt at reading manga, and I have to admit I struggled with it. Not necessarily with the way that you had to read it, like reading from right to left. I actually didn't have too much trouble with it. After a few pages, I got used to it, and it just was kind of old hat to be able to do that. But I am not used to, read manga, but also I don't really watch anime either, or don't have a lot of experience with anime. And so with this type of style, there's a lot of emoting. There's very, very strong facial expressions, and I'm not used to that. And so because of that, it kind of pulled me out of the story, and I just couldn't really get into it as much as I wanted to. So that was kind of my main thing with this series that I really struggled with. And I don't think it's necessarily the series. I think it's just manga in general has more strong emoting, and I'm just not used to it. And I don't read a lot of graphic novels or manga as it is, so I'm just not used to that kind of medium as well. I didn't hate it. I ended up giving this, 3 stars out of 5. And I give every single volume 3 stars. The first volume was pretty good. The only thing is I was spoiled for kind of the main twist in it, so I kind of saw everything coming. The second one felt like it didn't really move forward that much. The third one I thought was the best out of the 3 I was reading, and that one seemed to have the best kind of twists and things I didn't expect and seemed to move the story along the most. So I would say the third volume was my favorite out of the 3 that I read. I don't know if I'm going to continue on with the series or not because I don't have an easy way to read more of it because my local library only has 1 through 3. And I liked it, but I don't think I'm like overly anxious to read more. If I have a chance to read more, sure, I will. But I'm not sure if it's something I'm going to overly pursue trying to continue with. So 3 out of 5 stars for all 3 of these volumes. The next one is a book that for some reason I put off reading for so long. I couldn't decide if I was truly interested in it or not. I apologize. I'm trying to find the cover. It is in here somewhere. There it is. And that is, The Hazelwood by Melissa Albert. In this story, we are following a girl and her mother who always seem to be on the move. They only live kind of in different places for short periods of time. They're crashing on other people's couches, and they're constantly on the move. And this mother and her daughter, their grandmother, or the mom's mom, she is a famous author for writing this book of dark fairy tales that I forgot all of a sudden what it is called. Did I write it down? Let me see. Tales from the Hinterland. Oh, sorry, the glare. Tales from the Hinterland is this kind of dark fairy tale book that she written. It's very similar, I would say, to Brothers Grimm, but maybe even a little bit darker. It's pretty dark. And she has this really famous novel, but for some reason, the girl we're following the story, she's never met her grandmother. Her mom has not let her meet her grandmother. She doesn't really want her to have any part with her grandmother. And then one day they find out that their grandmother has passed away and that they're actually given the home that she lived in. And soon after her grandmother passes away, her mom disappears, and she finds out that her mom has actually been kidnapped from people from the hinterland, which is supposed to be a fake fairy tale, magical, imaginative place that's not real. And she finds maybe it's a little bit more real than she thought. That sounded like a crazy all over the place description, so I apologize. So this sounded like to me a nice, dark fairy tale, which I really love that. I love me some Brothers Grimm. I love some dark twists on things. It definitely has some great dark fairy tale vibes to it. My favorite parts were excerpts from The Tale of the Hinterlands, which is sort of the original fairy tale book. Some of those fairy tales were in here, and they are real dark, but I really enjoyed them a lot. I thought they were really, really fun to read, and that was probably my favorite part of it. I will continue on with the series, and I'm looking forward to the fairy tale source material being released. So the second book in this series is out. I'm not sure if there's going to be a third one or not. I think there is, but there's also a new book that's going to come out that's supposed to be the original Tales of the Hinterland. So there's going to be a book that has all the different fairy tales in it. So I'm really excited about reading that because my favorite portions of this book were kind of the fairy tale excerpts. So it was a very interesting story, very dark, very twisty towards the end. It's worth a read. I wish I hadn't put it off for so long to read it because I liked it a lot better than I thought it would. I ended up giving it 3.5 out of 5 stars. All right, moving along, my friends. So after that, after doing some dark fairy tales, I decided to jump into some sci-fi. And now I'm gonna have trouble finding the next cover. Yep, it is hiding from me. Well, since I can't find the cover, oh, there it is. Skyward from Brandon Sanderson, by Brandon Sanderson, not from. This is the UK cover, which is my favorite cover personally. The US one's okay, but I found the UK cover and it's a lot prettier. So in this story, we're following this girl who is living on a planet where the humans have had to basically live underground because they're constantly under attack by an alien race who's trying to wipe them out. This girl's dad, he used to be a pilot, kind of the main line of pilots that protect the humans from extinction. And he was a well-known pilot and a very good pilot until one day he did something which is the worst sin you can possibly have within this community. He does something cowardly and he turns and runs, and he ends up getting shot down by his own battalion because he ran away and he was a coward. Because of that, his daughter, who is now grown up, is wanting to be a pilot herself. She's wanting to prove that her family name is not a coward. She wants to be a pilot. The thing is that everyone assumes that she will do the same thing her father did and that she will do something cowardly, and she so desperately wants to become a pilot. At first, she doesn't think it's going to be possible because no one seems to be giving her a chance until she finds something incredible in a cavern. So that's all I'm going to tell you about it. And my goodness, you guys, I have not had tons of experience with Brandon Sanderson. This is only the third book of his I have read, and it is actually my favorite so far. I adored this book. It was so good. I'm going to check my notes to make sure I say what I wanted to say. It was fun. It gave me a bit of an Ender's Game vibe, but much better. I'm not a huge fan of Ender's Game, but it kind of reminded me of that with kind of the training aspect with the pilot training and everything and the battle training. Kind of reminded me a little bit of Ender's Game, but again, much better because I'm not a huge Ender's Game fan. It just gave me that vibe. It's my favorite Sanderson so far. I really enjoyed all the characters and they felt really well fleshed out. There were several characters that we kind of followed, but all of them felt very real, very three-dimensional. None of them felt flat. I really enjoyed that. I could feel and understand the frustration and pain of the main character. I really felt so much frustration and pain for her about her situation and how everyone just constantly counted her out because of her family and what her father had done, and just always giving her a time, not giving her the chance, and she had to work 3 times as hard as everybody else just to be able to get basic chances for things. It was well paced with a very high stakes. I loved the quippy AI. There is a AI in here that I love. It's one of my favorite tropes, to be honest. I love a sci-fi that has a really good witty AI character. It's one of my favorite things. I love it, and this had it. So this was a lot of fun. I am definitely going to read the next one in this series. I am so pumped to read it. Hopefully in the next few months, I will move on with that and try the next one out. I ended up giving that one 4.5 out of 5 stars, so real close to a 5-star. I really enjoyed this a lot. Well worth the read. Even if you don't have that much experience in sci-fi, this is a great starter one, to be honest. To me, it's very easy to get into, and it's a blast. It's a lot of fun. All right, so this next one is the perfect kind of fall read. It's a wonderful little middle grade, and it's called Scary Stories for Young Foxes by Christian McKay, Heidicker. The name of it is basically what it sounds like. We're following this den of foxes, and they are being told scary stories, and the scary stories take place in the forest and are about foxes as well. So it mostly takes place during the fall. There's a little bit of a portion of it takes place during the winter, but most of it takes place in the fall. So it gives you that perfect, like, crunchy fall leaves and crisp fall air and the smell of apples, that kind of feel. It's got the essence of the perfect fall weather vibes. The entire book is told in the mind and perspective of foxes. The book was done well, and it felt unique, but it didn't quite jive with me, to be perfectly honest. It felt a bit long, and it felt a bit young for me, which, I mean, it's middle grade, so it's not written for my age range, but it felt young to me, if that makes sense. And the animal perspectives, personally for me, felt a bit much. I didn't really enjoy reading a story that was completely from the perspective of animals. I like having stories where there are some like talking animals, or we have some perspective of animals. But when the entirety of the story is an animal's perspective, for some reason I struggle with it. I just wasn't as interested. It gives me Aesop or Aesop fable vibes, if you know what I'm talking about. Dark fairy tale with a moral. So it just definitely gave me that Aesop, I'm not saying it right, I'm sorry, but that fable vibe. This is a great fall read, and it's very atmospheric. It just definitely gives you the fall vibes. It's perfect for a nice cozy evening. So I would suggest it. It wasn't my favorite, but it was still fun. I give it 3 out of 5 stars. So it was kind of middle of the road for me. But I mean, look at that cover. It's so cute. I love it. It's so adorable. All right, moving on. This is one I am so excited to talk to you about because you guys, I love this book and it totally came out of left field. I've had it on my shelf for a little while and on like my TBR list on Goodreads forever. And I wish I hadn't waited so long to read it because I freaking loved it. And that is House of Furies by Madeleine Roux. You guys, I love this book. This is a perfect like October read. So let me see if I can explain it. We were following this girl who is originally from Ireland, and I think she's living in England. She's kind of been going to basically a finishing school. She's there to basically train to become a governess, or hopefully to be placed as a governess at a home. Instead, she actually ends up going and becoming a maid or / housekeeper for this big old manor that's being used as, I would say, like a bed and breakfast, kind of a hotel. People will stay there for a decent length of time. It's supposed to be a place where people go to relax and to also to kind of get well if they've been sick and that kind of thing. So she goes and starts working there. But then not only as she starts working there, she finds out that there's a lot of strange and dark things going on inside this manor, and that a lot of the people that are coming to stay meet some untimely ends. So this is a dark, creepy vibe. We've got ghosts, we've got creepy murdery things happening, there's some witch sort of stuff in here, some weird creatures. It's just, it is so much what I love. It is dark, it was creepy, it was fun, it had so much great atmosphere. Oh my goodness, I can look at the notes before I blather on too much. So this one definitely came out of left field, how much I liked it. It was dark, spooky, and deliciously twisted. It weaves in some Irish folklore, which I thought was really, really fun. It's this idea of a dark manor that calls to darkness and dark hearts and swallows them up whole. Just yes, please. This house is supposed to call people who basically deserve death. People that have done bad things, very bad things, or have like evil hearts, are like drawn to this home and they find their comeuppance there. And it's just, it's so good. I'm really excited to read more. This is the first in a trilogy. I have the second book. I've got the third book on the way to my house right now. I cannot wait to read the rest of these. It was so fun. I'm really hoping the next two are as good as the first one or even better because I enjoyed this. This one, I would say this one's highly underrated because I have hardly heard anything about it and I absolutely adored it. So it's dark, twisted, and perfect for the fall and October. So highly recommend. I ended up giving that one 4.5 out of 5 stars as well. Another book that I absolutely loved and is honestly a really big booktube darling is Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. This is an adult thriller. In this one, we are following a girl who is down on her luck. She's just broke up with her boyfriend and was also recently laid off from her job. She's been crashing on her friend's couch until one day she sees in the newspaper that there is an ad out for an apartment sitter at this really fancy high-rise in New York. And the crazy thing is that they're willing to pay $1,000 a week for someone to just stay at this apartment, which sounds nuts. So it sounds like the absolute perfect thing, this sort of like dream job. I mean, to be paid $1,000 to basically do nothing. You just have to stay there and you have to live there. And so she goes and applies for this job. Now, when she applies for it, things seem a little bit weird. It's a very old building. It's a very exclusive building. Usually a lot of rich or / famous people will live in this building. and it's very hard to get into. Also, on top of that, there are some strange rules she has to follow to be able to stay there. Some of those rules are she has to make sure she stays at the room every single night, which to me doesn't sound too bad. The other one is that she's not allowed to have any visitors at all. She's not allowed anyone come visit her, which to me, at the same time, to me that doesn't sound that weird, because I'm like, it's not technically your apartment and it's not your stuff. So I'm like, it makes sense to me to not be allowed to have people over. But anyways, so she ends up getting the job. She moves in and she starts meeting some other people that also are apartment sitters in different apartments, and again, also being paid the same rate. So she's staying in this place and it seems almost too good to be true. And that's because she finds out it is. Some creepy things start going on in this apartment building, and then one of the apartment sitters disappears, and then everything spirals out of control. This, you guys, this lives up to the hype. This was really good. I really enjoyed this thriller from beginning to end. It felt like the characters were fleshed out well, which is always great. It's an old high-rise building in Manhattan made for a creepy location. It felt very creepy. It just had some good vibes to it. The twists felt well done, and there were many that were completely unexpected to me. It's a thriller, so there's going to be twists, so I'm not spoiling anything with that. I'm really excited to read more Riley Sager, especially his new one, Home Before Dark. That one's supposed to be about a haunted house, which that sounds like everything. So I highly, highly recommend this one. I ended up giving this one a full 5 stars. I really enjoyed it a lot. It was so much fun, and I'm ready to inhale some more thrillers, especially by Riley Sager. So please do try this one out. I would say it's a great starter thriller too. Like if you're wanting to get into thrillers, you want to read a really good one, I would go with that. It was a lot of fun. All right, next one. This is one I was really excited to read because it is probably one of the most beautiful books that I own, and that is Panzabras by Guillermo del Toro. I probably just butchered that name, so I apologize. If that name sounds familiar, Pan's Labyrinth, that's because it's actually originally a film created by Guillermo del Toro. It came out about 10 years ago or something. I don't know. I originally saw the film in theaters. It's originally in Spanish with subtitles, and I did enjoy it, but it's a very dark story. It's a very dark fairy tale. So we're following this girl who is in Spain. I'm starting to think about, it's during a war, and I don't know the name of the war, and I apologize. I'm not sure if it's World War II. It might be World War II. But anyways, she is in Spain, and she ends up being in a very dark situation a little bit more within the war. And after a little bit, she ends up finding this labyrinth that's next to this mill that she's just moved into. And this labyrinth, some magical things start to happen, and fairy tale starts to blend with reality. I feel like I didn't explain that well, but I don't know how to explain it well. It's hard to explain. But I will say this looks like a fairy tale, and it is, but it's most definitely, at the very least, YA. This is not middle grade, folks. And it's not written middle grade. It is for at least YA, but it is dark. It deals with some real heavy topics. I enjoyed this for its visual presentation and its dark fairy tale atmosphere. It has a really great atmosphere, and the book itself is beautiful. I mean, the outside of it is gorgeous. The part without the jacket is beautiful. The illustrations inside are beautiful. It's just a very well presented book. It's beautiful. It's definitely not a kid's story. Like I said, there's quite a bit of violence and grief involved. The execution visually and the atmosphere are amazing, but the story itself isn't my favorite. I'm not a huge fan of the story because it's heavy, it's hard, it's difficult, it's rough, it's brutal. I mean, perfectly honest, it is. It's a heavy story, but the atmosphere it exudes is just perfection. It is. It's just got this really dark, painful fairy tale. It's very atmospheric. I will say that's very atmospheric and very beautifully done. So I would say I enjoyed the book more than the movie. So I would recommend the book over the movie, but the movie is beautiful as well. The movie is very well done. So it's just a very strange tale. It's very strange. It's very Tim Burton-y, but maybe even darker. I mean, that's saying something, but anyways. All right. Moving on, we've got 2 more to talk about, and they're actually both graphic novels. So the first one I'm going to talk about is actually, the one I'm going to hold up is the first book in this duology. The second one is the one that I read. So I read the second Wires and Nerve graphic novel by Marissa Meyer. It's called Gone Rogue. This is the graphic novel duology that is supposed to come after the Lunar Chronicles. Lunar Chronicles, if you haven't heard about that before, is a fairy tale retelling mashup sci-fi series of Cinderella, Red Riding Hood, Rapunzel, and Snow White. This takes place after that whole entire series has ended, so it's a continuation. And I felt like it was well done, to be perfectly honest. It was fun to read about these characters again, because I haven't read the Lunar Chronicles in quite a while, and haven't read this particular first graphic novel in quite a while either. And so jumping into the second one, it's been a while since I've seen these characters, so it was really fun to jump back into the characters again. It feels like a good continuation of the series. The after, what's happening afterwards, it was well done. I'm still not a huge fan of how the characters are depicted, but the dialogue feels right. So I feel like the story, the dialogue, all of that is done really well. Visually, I'm not a huge fan of it. One, the characters just don't look the way that I visualize them. I just don't like the character art. Also, I'm not entirely sure if I like the look of it. It's all blue. It's all blue and white in different shades of blue. There's no other coloring other than that, which you get used to, but it's not really my favorite. But mainly for me, I just don't really like the character art. Not that it's not well done, that just the characters don't look the way that I imagine them, or look the way I feel like they're described in the books. So that's kind of my main pet peeve with it. But the story's really good. It's really well done. It's a fun continuation, I would say. They're both worth the read, especially if you really liked the Lunar Chronicles. Then I think it's definitely worth jumping into it and just kind of seeing what happens after the very last book that you read. So I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars. It was fun. Not going to just like praise it from the mountains, but it was good and it was fun and it's a cool continuation. So this very last one I'm going to talk to you about, and I'm going to pull up the picture for you, is one that I was really excited to read because I really, really like the television series for it. So I ended up reading the very first graphic novel of Umbrella Academy, Apocalypse Suite. So the Umbrella Academy is a TV show that has been adapted on Netflix from this graphic novel series. The graphic novel series is a trilogy, and I absolutely adore the series, the TV series. I just finished season 2, which just came out very recently. It came out mid-July. I absolutely adore it. If you've never heard of Umbrella Academy before, we're following this academy of kids who have superpowers. And then just stuff happens. I don't want to say much more than that because I don't want to spoil anything. But it's very like quirky. They're superheroes, but they're not superheroes. It's not like the people in spandex, and it's not like Superman or Batman or I don't know. It's not like a typical superhero thing. And I feel like they're always trying to prevent the apocalypse from happening is basically what it seems to be happening every single time. And I love the characters. It's so well done. The story is so fascinating, and I absolutely loved it. But here's the thing, guys. So I was really excited to jump into this and to read the source material because I love the show so much. This was really confusing. If I hadn't seen the show, I probably would have no clue what is going on. This felt like such a jumble. It felt very disjointed. Just the scenes and the thought processes to me didn't make any sense. Nothing seemed to connect to me very well. I felt like there was not nearly enough explanation about who the characters were, what was going on. Like, seriously, if I had not seen the show, I would have felt so lost and probably would not have even attempted to read this. I probably would have gone a few pages in and given up and been like, I don't know what this is. This is weird. Because I have some idea of what the characters are and some idea of what the kind of the story is, even though they did a lot of changes from the source material, which good changes, really good changes. The Netflix show, I am honestly amazed that this was adapted into something and made into something so incredible, because this original source material, I didn't really like it. I just didn't. I was honestly shocked it was chosen for an adaptation. I'm glad it was, though, because the adaptation is so good. The art style is really cool, but that's the only thing I liked. I would say watch the show, don't read the graphic novels. I just didn't like it. I don't know if this has like a huge fan base and that's why it was adapted. I don't know. If you happen to know more about the graphic novels and like how popular they are, or maybe why that they were adapted, I don't know. If you happen to know, let me know down below. I'm not trying to just like bash it, but I think it's just because I saw the show. The show's so good. It's so complex. It's so well done. And then I read this and I felt like there was a lot missing. I literally would have no idea what was going on unless I had watched the show. It's just, anyways. Okay, so I gave this 2 stars, which is kind of a bummer, but that's how it is, folks. Okay, this is almost 30 minutes long. I apologize. If you have watched to this point, thank you for watching. Leave me like a fun emoji down below if you happen to watch all the way to the end. I'd appreciate it. But on this side of the video over here is a logo. If you click on that, you can subscribe to my channel, follow me in my book journey. On this side over here is a suggestion for another video right now. Let me know if there's any books that I mentioned today that you have read, or let me know what you read in August and what you liked. My dog is about to hawk up his lung. Thank you so much for watching. You rock. And don't forget to keep reading. Bye.